Imagine you were standing outside a glass box, like a really pristine, heavily reinforced glass box.
Right, something you'd see in a high-end corporate building.
Exactly. And inside that box, 15 people are suffocating. I mean, they are dying right in front of your eyes, just gasping for an atmosphere that, well, it simply isn't there anymore.
It's a complete nightmare scenario.
It really is.
Yeah.
And your immediate human instinct, obviously, is to grab the heaviest piece of metal you can find and just smash that glass, to let the oxygen rush back in.
Which is exactly what you should not do.
Right, because if you break that seal, the sheer, violently explosive force of the air rushing back inside will kill every single one of them instantly. So how do you save them?
That is the ultimate puzzle.
It is. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking you inside the thrilling narrative finale of the Miami barometric pressure case, examining Season 2, Episode 2.
And it is a wild ride.
Oh, absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack the absolutely terrifying science of weaponized atmospheric engineering. We're looking at a scenario where the invisible air around us, the fundamental weight of the atmosphere that keeps our blood in a liquid state, is turned into a lethal weapon against us.
It's such a brilliant subversion of how we usually think about threats.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the behavioral probability unit has exactly minutes to save 15 Olympic athletes trapped in a high-altitude chamber, and the killer is using the literal absence of air itself to murder them.
What's fascinating here is the absolute inversion of how we typically view a weapon. I mean, when we think of terrorism or murder, we usually think of an introduction of force, right?
Like a bomb or a chemical gas.
Exactly, a kinetic impact of some kind. But the unsub, Dr. Julian Kress, he's a disgraced aerospace engineer who doesn't introduce anything. He removes.
He just takes it away.
Yeah, he has weaponized a fundamental invisible rule of physics known as Boyle's law. He figured out how to use the literal absence of atmospheric pressure as an instrument of terror.
Which is just so incredibly sinister.
It really is. He isn't building a bomb to blow a building outward.
Right.
He is manipulating a builder's own infrastructure to pull the atmosphere inward. He's creating a vacuum that human biology simply cannot survive.
And, given the absolute gauntlet, the behavioral probability unit ran through with the Golden Ratio sniper in Chicago and the Midnight Sun cult up in Alaska last year.
Oh, yeah, those were intense cases.
Totally.
Okay.
But Elias Vance's audio logs make it crystal clear. The landscape of violence is shifting. Killers aren't just using guns anymore. They are getting structurally smarter.
They're using the environment itself.
Exactly. And that specific evolution is exactly why Elias Vance brought in Agent Damian Cross to the unit.
It was an operational necessity at that point. I mean, you have Jax, who handles the digital footprint, right?
Yeah.
She's hacking the code and tracking the cyber anomalies.
The tech genius.
Right. But a line of code doesn't exist in a vacuum, pun absolutely intended there.
Next.
Thanks. But seriously, that code interacts with physical motors, steel vents, and glass panes. They really needed someone who could read the concrete.
Yeah.
Someone who understood the physical architecture of a crime scene just as well as Jax understands the network it runs on.
Which makes total sense.
And Cross proves his worth immediately by flagging a massive environmental anomaly in a Miami skyscraper.
And honestly, the inciting crime scene that brings them down to Miami is just the stuff of absolute nightmare.
It's so eerie.
It really is. So there's this billionaire real estate developer named Mateo Vargas, and he's found dead inside his pristine 40th floor penthouse office at the Horizon Tower.
A completely sealed environment?
Exactly. Agent Hatch takes the initial field notes, and the physical space makes zero logical sense. The reinforced smart glass windows are completely intact. There's no sign of a physical struggle.
No toxic gases pumped through the vents either.
Nothing. But the room itself is deeply wrong. Every single liquid in the room, the water in Vargas's massive saltwater fish tank, the coffee sitting in his ceramic mug, has completely evaporated, instantly boiled away.
Which just sounds impossible until you look at the biology. The medical profiling is what breaks the impossibility of the scene. Dr. Eris Thorm conducts the preliminary exam on Vargas's body and identifies the cause of death as ebulism.
Ebulism. It sounds like a sterile, almost clinical term. But the physical reality of what happened to Vargas is incredibly brutal.
It is arguably one of the most violent biological reactions a human body can experience without the use of a traditional weapon.
Just a terrible way to go.
Yeah. To truly understand ebulism, we have to talk about the mechanics of atmospheric pressure. We walk around all day, completely ignoring the fact that we are living at the bottom of an ocean of air.
It's just invisible to us.
Right. But that air has immense physical weight. At sea level, there is roughly 14.7 pounds of atmospheric pressure pressing down on every single square inch of your body.
So it's essentially an invisible hand pressing down on us from the sky.
A very heavy, very necessary invisible hand. That downward pressure is exactly what keeps the liquid molecules inside your body. Your blood, your saliva, the fluid in your eyes trapped in a stable liquid state.
Okay, I think I see where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, we are taught in grade school that water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, right? But that is only true at sea level under the weight of that normal atmospheric pressure.
Because heat isn't the only thing that causes boiling.
Exactly. A lack of pressure does the exact same thing. If you are placed in a total vacuum, an environment with zero atmospheric pressure, that invisible hand is lifted. The boiling point of water drops drastically, plummeting right below normal human body temperature.
So the moment the pressure in that 40th floor office hit absolute zero, the water inside Vargas's blood literally began to boil at 98.6 degrees.
Instantly. The liquid in his veins expanded into gas bubbles. His blood boiled, the moisture in his lungs vaporized and expanded, and his lungs catastrophically ruptured. Yeah. As Thorne pointed out, Dr. Krust didn't need to poison Vargas. He just removed the weight of the sky.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'm genuinely struggling with the physical mechanics of this trap.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is.
Yeah.
If you think about a modern LED-certified smart building, it's essentially a giant, heavily regulated machine. It breathes in fresh air, it breathes out exhaust, like a giant pair of lungs.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. But how on earth do you force a permanently sealed, structurally reinforced building to just exhale all of its air and not take another breath? I mean, if you just reverse the industrial fans to like 1,000%, wouldn't the motors just burn out or the safety fail-safes trip instantly?
They absolutely should, under normal circumstances.
So how did Jackson Cross explain him bypassing all those physical hardware limits?
Well, that tension between software and hardware is exactly the puzzle Jackson Cross have to solve together. Jax finds the digital footprint from Quantico, analyzing the building's centralized HVAC mainframe. And she sees that Dr. Krust injected a malicious override code into the supervisory control and data acquisition system, the SCADA system.
A building's brain, basically.
Right. He digitally isolated Vargas's 40th floor office and hard-locked the fresh air intake valves shut, so the room could no longer breathe in, to use your analogy.
But the exhaust fans still have physical thermal limiters, right? They aren't designed to create a literal vacuum.
They aren't. But you have to remember, Krust is an aerospace engineer. He understands the exact breaking point of industrial machinery. He stripped the firmware limiters in the variable frequency drives.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The motors did destroy themselves. They were melting down, literally catching fire on the roof from the friction. But Krust calculated that they would survive just long enough, exactly 8.4 seconds, to suck every single cubic inch of air out of that sealed office before catastrophic motor failure.
Wow. He sacrificed the building's hardware to turn a luxury corner office into a perfect, deadly vacuum chamber. But wait, what about the glass? Why didn't those massive penthouse windows just shatter inward from the outside air pressure trying to rush into the vacuum?
Because of the structural engineering of Horizon Tower. As Krust discovers by reading the architectural blueprints, the building was designed with reinforced hurricane glass and highly advanced curtain wall mullions.
Oh, because it's in Miami.
Exactly. It was built to withstand immense positive pressure from Category 5 hurricane winds. Krust simply did the math and realized that same tensile strength would briefly hold against the negative pressure of a vacuum.
That is terrifying.
It really highlights the vulnerability of our modern hermetically sealed architecture. We build these perfectly climate-controlled, impenetrable fortresses, but if someone with enough knowledge gains control of the environmental code, you are suddenly trapped in a sealed box of your own making.
And Vargas's death wasn't just a hit. It wasn't just a random assassination. Dr. Krust left an antique brass barometer sitting right on Vargas's desk, perfectly calibrated to read absolute zero.
Which is very telling.
Yeah, that feels incredibly theatrical for an engineer.
Because it wasn't just a murder. It was a physics demonstration. That barometer is the critical turning point for Elias Vance's profile of the unsub.
It's his signature.
Right. It's a deliberate, highly calculated message left for anyone smart enough to understand it. It tells the behavioral probability unit that Vargas was merely a proof of concept.
A test run.
Exactly. Krust knows his engineering works in the real world now, and the logical progression for a narcissistic mind like his is that he wants an audience. He is going to scale up.
Which directly prompts Vance to have Jackson Cross immediately pull up all the larger, hermetically sealed structures in the greater Miami area.
Oh.
And that's when they find the absolute nightmare scenario.
The Apex Sports Medicine Clinic.
Yes. It just went completely dark offline.
Right.
And this isn't just an office building with strong glass. It's a massive, multi-room, high-altitude simulation center. It is specifically rated and built to safely simulate the low-pressure environment of the stratosphere.
It's designed for Olympic athletes to train in.
Right. And right now, there are 15 athletes locked inside the main chamber. And Crest is dropping the pressure to a fatal 0.
It's a giant, fully functional, sealed pressure chamber, and Crest has locked the administrators out of the system. Cross recognizes the danger the second they pull the schematics.
Because this glass is different.
Way different. Unlike the Horizon Tower penthouse, the structural integrity of this facility's glass is explicitly designed to hold a massive pressure differential indefinitely. The glass won't break to save them, but the human bodies inside will inevitably boil.
I have a pushback on the profiling aspect of this, though. Why target Olympic athletes in a high-altitude chamber?
You think it's too niche?
Yeah, to me it feels incredibly specific. If he just wants a body count, why not a subway train or a crowded bank? Turning an athletic training tool, something that is explicitly meant to optimize peak human performance and lung capacity, into a massive death trap feels like the ultimate twisted flex for a disgraced aerospace engineer.
Your pushback is entirely valid, and it actually strikes right at the core of Crest's pathology. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Dr. Crest isn't interested in simple mass casualties. He is demonstrating absolute godlike mastery over atmospheric physics.
He wants to show he controls the air itself.
Exactly. Think about the psychological terror he's inflicting here compared to a standard unsub. This isn't a conventional hostage situation where SWAT can negotiate.
Right, there's no one to talk to.
And the weapon isn't a ticking explosive wired under a desk. The weapon is the agonizingly slow, calculated, and invisible drop in atmospheric pressure. He is taking the environment itself and slowly turning the dial to 0. It's methodical, it's mathematically inevitable, and it strips the victors of any agency.
Which leads right into the absolute chaos of the climax.
Yeah.
Because as we established at the beginning with that glass box scenario, knowing the physical location of the trap isn't enough to stop it.
Not even close.
The physics of a vacuum mean that the method of rescue is just as lethal as the trap itself. It forces the behavioral probability unit into this insane, multi-front, multidisciplinary battle where every single team member is pushed to their absolute intellectual and physical limit.
When the team arrives at the Apex Clinic, the reality on the ground is terrifyingly volatile. The local SWAT team is already in position, and their standard operational protocol for a hostage situation behind a locked door is a kinetic breach.
They just want to break it down.
Right. They are wiring explosives, they are ready to blow the glass and just storm the room.
And Agent Cross has to physically throw himself in front of the breach team to stop them.
He does, and it's the exact moment he proves his vital worth to the unit. The SWAT commander thinks Cross is protecting the unsub's trap, but Cross is protecting the physics.
Because if they blow the glass...
If SWAT shatters that glass, the immense pressure differential between the normal 14.7 pounds per square inch outside air and the near-zero vacuum inside the chamber will cause a catastrophic repressurization event.
So what does this all mean? The air wouldn't just gently blow into the room like opening a window on a windy day.
Not at all.
It reminds me of the analogy of a deep-sea submarine at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. If that sub gets a crack in the hull, the ocean doesn't just leak in. The sheer pressure difference causes the water to slice through the metal like a laser, violently imploding the space.
That is a perfect comparison.
Here, they're trying to let the heavy ocean of normal atmosphere inside a vacuum without crushing the fragile human bodies inside.
That submarine analogy is incredibly accurate because it focuses on the violence of the pressure wave. If SWAT breaches the glass, the surrounding atmosphere will rush into that vacuum at supersonic speeds. It creates a concussive shock wave, basically identical to a bomb detonating directly inside the chamber.
So they wouldn't suffocate?
No, the 15 athletes wouldn't die from lack of oxygen. They would be killed instantly by the concussive force of the air pressure violently slamming into their internal organs.
Wow. So they can't just open the door. They have to slowly, manually let the air back in through the facility's analog intake valves.
Yes.
And to achieve that painfully slow repressurization, the team has to execute this brilliant claustrophobic puzzle, but they have to do it while actively under physical attack.
The contrast of the climax is what makes the sequence so incredibly compelling. While this delicate, microscopic puzzle is happening downstairs, there is an epic, visceral, chaotic scene unfolding on the roof of the clinic.
It is wild. Agent Hatch is up on the roof trying to physically secure the massive intake machinery, and he is fighting for his life against Dr. Crest.
It's just a brutal fight.
It's pouring rain. There's a massive thunderstorm rolling in off the Miami coast. And Crest, who clearly came prepared to defend his masterpiece, is literally shooting at Hatch with an industrial pneumatic nail gun. It is raw, muddy, desperate brute force survival.
And that brute force on the roof is juxtaposed against the absolute mathematical precision required downstairs.
Such a cool dynamic.
It really is. Dr. Thorne is handling the medical biology of the 15 athletes. He is watching their vitals crash on the monitors. He is watching the early stages of ebulism begin to manifest.
Their blood is starting to boil.
Exactly. So Thorne has to calculate the exact elasticity of the human alveoli, the tiny air sacs in the lungs. He has to determine the exact cubic feet per second rate that air can be reintroduced to the chamber without causing a shock wave.
And he translates that complex biological math into a perfect, steady metronome beat. And he feeds that metronome click directly into Agent Cross's earpiece over the radio.
Yes, Cross is standing downstairs using his structural engineering expertise to manipulate the physical infrastructure. He has his hands on this massive, rusted iron manual intake valve that bypasses the digital lockout.
Which takes incredible focus.
Completely. He has to completely tune out the intense violence happening on the comms. He can hear Hatch fighting for his life. He can hear the sharp cracks of the nail gun and the thunder. But he has to focus entirely on that singular clicking sound in his ear.
He has to manually crank that heavy iron wheel in perfect, flawless synchronization with Eris's metronome. Because if he turns it too fast, the air rushes in and ruptures the athlete's organs.
Right.
But if he turns it too slow, they suffocate, and their blood boils.
It is the ultimate validation of Elias Vance's entire theory for the behavioral probability unit. This climax proves exactly why Cross is now an invaluable asset.
He really earned his spot.
He did. Vance said the unsubs were getting structurally smarter, that the architecture itself was becoming the weapon. This scene demonstrates that stopping these modern, highly technical villains requires a perfect, seamless synthesis of different disciplines.
You can't just shoot the problem.
Exactly. You cannot solve a Boyle's Law vacuum breach with just a SWAT team's gun, and you can't solve it with just a cyber expert's computer code. You need the concrete, the biology, and the code working together. Brains, engineering, and brawn operating simultaneously.
And the execution is absolutely flawless. Against all odds, they actually pull it off.
It's amazing.
Cross holds the rhythm perfectly. Thorne monitors the biology. Hatch manages to neutralize Crest on the roof. They slowly, painstakingly equalize the pressure inside the Apex clinic just in time. The 15 athletes are pulled from the brink. The trap is entirely neutralized, and the Miami vacuum case comes to this incredibly thrilling conclusion.
A huge win for the team.
Definitely. And more than anything, Cross is officially solidified as a core, indispensable member of the behavioral probability unit. I mean, they literally could not have done it without him.
It's a hard-earned victory for the unit. But you know, the implications of Crest's methodology linger long after the atmospheric pressure normalizes. The threat he represented isn't isolated to a single crazed engineer.
It really isn't. And I want you to think about the spaces you inhabit daily after listening to this. Tomorrow, when you walk into your corporate office skyscraper and look at those massive reinforced windows that don't open, or when you board a commercial airplane, or even sit inside your climate-controlled, software-reliant smart car.
We're surrounded by them.
We exist inside these tightly sealed, perfectly engineered boxes all the time. We completely take the invisible weight and pressure of the atmosphere for granted, and we put absolute blind trust in the automated architecture to keep us safe. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, we have to talk about where the team is heading next, because the anomalies just keep coming.
Oh, they definitely do.
What are the odds that a single cello note could bring down a concrete balcony? The behavioral probability unit is heading to the Pacific Northwest to face the music. See you next time.
But as you think about that upcoming Portland case, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought regarding Dr. Julian Crest and his weaponized glass box.
Oh, good point.
The most terrifying weapons aren't always explosive. They aren't always an addition of force. Sometimes they're simply the sudden removal of what we blindly assume will always be there. Dr. Crest used the absence of something as fundamental as the air we breathe to create the ultimate weapon. We live in an increasingly smart, automated, and deeply connected world. So ask yourself, what other invisible physical laws are keeping you alive right this very second, completely dependent on a line of automated code that someone, somewhere, could simply rewrite?